Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Don Odells Legends. My name is Art Tipaldi. I'm the editor of Blues Music Magazine. Check us out, if you would, on bluesmusicstore.com. Our issues are also available at Barnes & Noble and many other bookstores around the country. Current issue has Kenny Neal on the cover, and it's quite a good read. Well, today we are featuring a New England legend, if you will, a young legend, and that's Darren Tibbit, a.k.a. Lightening Tibbit. Is that right?
You got that
Yeah,
right.
yeah. I call him New England. You're originally from Maine.
I am.
Are you still up in Maine now?
I currently live in Florida.
Okay, so this is a band, and we'll talk a little bit about this later. This is a band that has roots in both Maine, I mean the two corners of the country, Maine and then Florida.
You got it.
Where you have built an amazing fan base. But yeah, Darren, if you have not seen this band tonight that we're filming, Memphis Lightning, you're in for a real treat. Fasten your seatbelts, that's all I got to say. So I always love to ask the question to young guys like you.
Yeah, man.
What came first, the blues or the guitar?
I would have to say, for me, it was the blues.
It was.
And the reason I say that is, even before I ever played an instrument,
Yeah.
my dad was always playing records in the house. We
Okay.
had no vinyl player.
Yeah.
So even, I wasn't even walking yet. And
Right.
everything from Muddy Waters to Magic Sam
Wow.
to even more acoustic, like, Blind Lemon Jefferson
Wow.
was always playing in the house. So
Yeah.
it was kind of like one of those, when I would go and visit friends' houses, I'm like, why aren't they listening to this?
Yeah.
This is the cool stuff.
Yeah, yeah. So when did you pick up guitar, start to play musically after what you've been listening to? How old?
I was 8.
You were 8. Okay.
8 years old when I started playing guitar, and it was one of those, worked really hard, and
Yeah.
within 4 years, I was actually in my first band, which is the same band I'm in now, Memphis
Wow.
Lightning.
So you were 12 years old when your first band?
12.
When you started to be in a band, what was it about performing that spoke to you?
Initially, I won't lie, I got very bad stage fright.
Yeah.
And it was actually kind of rough for me to play on stage initially, because I wanted to play because I liked the feeling I got when I played.
Yeah, yeah.
And I won't lie, I love seeing the people's reactions.
Right.
Like, I'm one, I feed right off the
Yeah,
audience.
yeah,
So if
yeah.
the crowd's going, I'm going.
Right.
But it was definitely a little rough at first. It took about 2 years before I really started feeling comfortable and then working on, like, stage presence
Yeah.
and developing a show.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. When you started playing, was your dad, I know he's a bass player in your band.
Yes.
Right? Was he a bass player always, or had he been did you have guitars laying around the house that Darren picked up
You
as
got
a
it.
6,
So
7, 8-year-old?
my dad was actually a drummer first.
Okay.
But always played every instrument. Played drums, played guitar, played bass, even played some piano.
Okay.
So he always had guitars, bass, drums laying around the house. And really, even though I consider myself a guitar player,
Right.
I can play everything in the rhythm section.
Okay.
And it was because of being with my dad.
Sure.
He wanted to teach me every instrument. And
Sure.
he was originally our drummer.
Okay, okay. Now he's playing bass in the band.
You got it.
Yeah, yeah. Talk to me a little bit about the learning curve to learn the blues as an 8-year-old. I imagine first you're learning the guitar and everything guitar.
Absolutely. You know what was funny was when I first started taking lessons, my dad would show me some riffs and
Right.
would show me lines, but then when I actually started the whole formal lessons, then they want to teach you either from a Hal Leonard book, or they
Oh,
want
yeah.
to teach you what I call the classic riffs and a lot of classic rock. And it was one of those, though I do like that genre of music, I
Right.
wasn't familiar with it at the time.
Yeah.
So I was a little bullheaded, and I wanted
Okay.
to learn specific blues tunes, but there are certain things you got to learn. Got to
Yeah.
learn to crawl before you can walk, and
Sure.
walk before you can run. But I was very lucky. I kind of based everything I learned out of blues,
Yeah.
rock and roll,
Right.
and like old surf music.
Okay,
So
okay.
because I was a little broader at that point,
Yeah.
a lot of the teacher was like, well, I guess I could show you this because this you need
Connects
in
with
all
that.
of them.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. yeah.
Connecting the dots.
Right. Right. Were you learning primarily visually, or were you learning off of records, or for your generation, were you learning off YouTube and the internet?
You know what was weird? I never actually used YouTube until I was like 15.
Okay.
And the thing was, I learned predominantly off of records.
Right.
And I could sit and if you played something, if I hear it, I could play it.
Okay.
I didn't know what I was playing at the time. Now I can read sheet music and all the fun stuff.
Right.
But at the time, if I heard it, I could play it.
Right.
Wasn't always, may not be 100% right on, you know, the way I'm playing it, but I could hear the notes and play the notes.
Really? Wow.
And it was really strange, but that
Sure.
was kind of how I picked up stuff.
Yeah. So were you playing records and then, you know, lifting the needle up and going back and playing it over and over again to get it?
You got it.
With
a combination of vinyl.
Yeah.
Even though we had CDs, we
Yeah.
didn't have as many.
Right.
It was
right. Your dad sounds like had a huge record collection.
We always had vinyl
Yeah.
and always had cassettes.
Right.
And cassettes, that was a little rough, you know, take
Yeah,
a
I know.
Walkman and record it back and
Yeah.
then play it. Oh, wait a minute, rewind. Oh, too far,
Yeah.
go back. And
Yeah.
But that was pretty much, between that and CDs, is just rewind,
Right.
pause it, play it, rewind,
Yeah.
pause it, play it, and
Wow.
then learn to play with a metronome. So if I didn't have the record to practice with, I could at least have a consistent beat to play to.
Wow. And this is as an 8 to 12-year-old.
You got it.
Yeah. Yeah.
My dad started me young, and I
know.
thank him every day for it.
Wow. Well, I always ask, you know, again, young musicians like yourself, young artists, that 10,000 hours of mastery that they talk about, that you go through if you want to be a musician, if you want to be a sports person. You know, can you talk a little bit about those 10,000 hours and what some of those days were like?
Absolutely. Well, the funniest thing is, ever since the age of 8, I never went a day, up until around the age of 18, never went a day without playing a minimum of 4 hours a day.
Wow.
That was, for me, in order for me to feel like I actually accomplished what I wanted to do and learn,
yeah.
I had to have a minimum of 4 hours of playing a day. And then ever since 18, 3 hours a day.
Wow.
No matter if we're on the road,
Yeah.
if we're touring, if I
Yeah.
have session work or
Yeah.
an interview or anything, 3 hours a day. Like today, 3 hours. If I don't have it in the hotel room,
Right.
I'm sitting in the back of the van, buckled up, I got my guitar, and I'm practicing.
Really?
That way I
Wow.
can feel that.
Wow. So what
So
was
since the age of 8,
yeah.
that's a lot of
That's a lot
hours.
of hours. So what was it? What's a typical school day like when you're a 10-year-old? Is it getting up in the morning and playing before you
An hour before,
head to school?
and then I go to school, I come home, and then I'd play guitar for 2 hours, and then I get yelled at to do homework.
Yeah.
And then I would do homework and go to
With your
bed.
guitar strapped around you. We're-
I did that many a night.
Yeah, yeah. You grow up in the era of hip hop and rap, and here you are, the blues guitar kid. What was that like? I was a high school English teacher.
Oh,
so
yeah.
So I had my share of students who were musicians, but they didn't quite fit in with the music that the kids were listening to. What was your high school years like? What were they like?
They were rather, it's funny. Up until senior year, I would say strained. And the reason I say that is because a lot of the music I was listening to and playing out with the band,
Right.
no one else my age was listening to. And
Right.
if it was, there wasn't that many talking about it.
Yeah.
And what was funny for me was senior year was the first time that I actually got a lot of my classmates to come out to some of the shows.
Yes.
You know, with a lot of the rooms were 21 and
Right.
plus, but as long as you were 18 or had an adult,
Yes.
they'd let you in.
Okay.
So that was like the first time they were able to actually see me.
Wow.
And a lot of them, even though they say they don't like blues,
Yeah,
they love the music.
that's right.
I feel like some people got turned off just by the word because
Exactly.
it's one of those, I don't know why, but a lot of kids my age, they hear that and they think, oh, it's going to be some sad
music. Yeah.
song. And it's
Yeah.
like, it couldn't be further
I
away
know,
from that.
I know. I always say to people, you know, I'm going on a blues cruise. And there's going to be 2,000 people there, and nobody's going to be crying. you know?
Nobody.
I know.
They're going to be having a blast.
I know. This is really funny. In my blues course, I taught a blues course in high school, blues and lit, and it was African American literature, culture, history, and music.
That's sweet.
Because I was an English teacher, and whenever I do African American literature, I'd have to say to my kids, "Oh, when he talks about going to the crossroads, you know, that's selling his soul. That's Robert Johnson. You know that." And the kids would be like, "No, I don't." So I developed a whole course around that, and I used to bring in performers to play for my students because I can strum a guitar, but I can't do what you guys do. I can strum 3 chords pretty rudimentarily. Anyway, I had everybody from Ronnie Baker Brooks to Shamika to Keb Mo 3 times to B.B. King in 1999. But in some of my last years, Coco Montoya came with his band, and we set up a little show. And they only played for my students. I don't mean to go on so long, but we played in the auditorium, and it was my classes and the music teacher's classes. And I had a kid with long hair who was a guitar player, and I knew it. But he was quiet and shy, and he's in a class with football players and, you know, popular kids, because this course was very popular, and those kids kind of hung back. But I knew who did what.
Right.
And I looked at him and I said, TJ, bring your axe tomorrow, because I got Coco coming in. And so Coco starts to play and calls him up, and TJ starts jamming note for note. And I know you know exactly what's going on. And
I know exactly what you mean.
They're hitting it back and forth. And all of a sudden, TJ stops, and I'm going, why is he stopping? And he's reaching in his pocket, and now he pulls out a slide, and he puts a slide on, and he's going at Coco with a slide.
Oh.
I tell you what, Darren, that kid, the next day, he walked into class. You would have thought he scored a winning touchdown in an athletic event.
Right.
Those kids saw a whole different side of him.
It's tearing me
I
up.
know, I am too.
Because I know that feeling.
Yeah, and Coco, when he played the Iron Horse, would invite TJ up there to play with him. You know, it was very special. They of course have lost contact 15 years later, but that was an amazing moment for me. So I know what it was like when you were in school. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I had a very similar experience. It was with Eddie Kirkland, because my
Yeah.
dad had toured with Eddie for many years.
Oh, wow, sure.
And I remember one time, I'm 12 years old.
Yeah.
And my dad brings me out to see Eddie play at it used to be called Raoul's, and then they turned it to the Venue. Very kind of a famous blues and roots venue in Portland, Maine.
Right.
And I remember being there, and my dad asked Eddie, you know, is there any way, you know, would you just talk to my son, maybe show him a lick or two? And Eddie's like, no, he'll get up and play.
Yeah.
But when Eddie said you're going to get up and play, that didn't mean sit in.
Right.
That means you're playing the whole night. And there's no set list. You don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Here I am with a blues legend. I've been listening to his records.
Right.
You know, and I mean all the records he did with John Lee Hooker to the stuff he did with Otis Redding. And I'm listening to all this, and I'm thinking, I'm on stage with him.
Yeah.
And I will be honest with you, I was scared to death.
Sure.
And to this day, I think it was the best show I've ever played.
Wow.
Just because I was literally me to you, to him, the whole night.
Yeah.
And it was like
magical.
And ever since then, the thing was, Eddie was like, any show you're at, you'll be my guitar player for the whole night.
Oh, my God.
Unfortunately, not long after that, he passed away.
Sure. Wow. What a special treat. And that's like, you know, I liken so many things to athletic stuff. That's like you're skiing down a Black Diamond Mountain that you've never skied before.
Right.
And it's like, or you're driving a Ferrari and it's like, I don't know what to do next. Well, those are some amazing. Can you talk? First of all, you're from Maine.
Correct.
Which is where you grew up.
You got it.
When did you move out of Maine?
So originally, we started touring about 5 years ago.
Okay.
And about a year and a half ago, in the midst of everything happening, you know, with the pandemic, we lost all the local shows, and there wasn't any touring happening.
Right.
And it was one of those, we just kind of went out on a whim and said, we're gonna move down to Florida.
Okay.
And we did.
Yeah.
And we've been there a year and a half. The fan base built incredible. And the thing was, we had, like with Facebook, we had about 1,800 followers before we left.
Yeah.
And sitting here today, we're just shy of 20,000.
Nice.
In a year and a half.
Yeah.
And the touring came back great. I mean, we're actually on a 6-week run right now.
Right.
We get back for 2 weeks, and we're back out on the road for 4.
Wow. Yeah, Florida has a whole lot of opportunities for bands, blues bands, rock and roll bands, and there are all these little venues that are now opening. Back to when you said you were 16 and you brought your friends, classmates out to see you. Isn't that about the time that you made your trip to Memphis and the youth?
That was actually
challenge?
the same year.
Yeah.
It was the same year I went down and competed for it wasn't a competition for the youth.
It's a showcase.
But it was a showcase at the IBC.
Right.
That to me, I mean, it changed everything.
Yeah.
Because I still run into people.
The IBC is the International Blues Challenge that the Blues Foundation has, and part of it, one aspect of it is the the youth showcase that you were part of.
You got it.
And that must have been something because you ran into people your own age who now were blues geeks from their towns. Have you maintained friendships? I mean, did you?
I've stayed in contact with about 10.
Cool.
And
Yeah.
if I run into people, I got a photographic memory.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
one of those. I recognize people like when we're
Right.
at festivals, but
Right.
I did keep in touch with a good friend of mine from at a band, Jemiah on Fire and the Red Machine, and
Okay.
and a lot of these kids that were close to my age
Yeah,
that I
yeah.
was like, holy crap, other people like this music too.
Right. And as a fan of rock and roll too, you know, here you are, Sun Studios, Graceland. I mean, did you get to travel around Memphis to see some of these places?
We
or
did get to go to some. We went
Yeah.
to Sun Records.
Yeah.
We had to do that.
Yep. The Stax Museum. I don't know-
Stax.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. Oh man, that's very cool.
Booker T and the MGs and all those cats, man.
Yeah. And now this year you were in Memphis to compete. Is this the first time you've competed in the band?
Yes, this is the
Okay.
first time I've ever competed.
Yeah. So the band competition brings bands from all around the world. You get 2 nights of a quarterfinals.
You got it.
Then you get 1 night of a semifinal, and then they take the winning bands from those bars and they have the finals in the Orpheum.
Correct.
Yeah. Which bar did you play in?
We were scheduled to play at the Hot Tin Roof.
Oh yeah, and then
And
they
then
closed it down.
there was a big,
Yes.
big
There had been
conflict.
a little violence or something.
Right.
Yeah.
So we got moved to the Flying Saucer
Yeah.
one night.
Yep.
And that was a really fun night.
Yeah.
But they were already scheduled to do a private event the next day, so
That's
they
right.
couldn't do it. So they moved us to the Hard Rock.
Okay.
When
okay.
that was so incredible.
Yeah. Very nice. How do you prepare for that for a competition? I mean, music is not really a competition sport, but how do you prepare you and the band?
I felt like we overthought it the first night.
Right.
You know, because we were thinking, okay, we got to shorten these tunes.
Yes.
We got to do this. I got to have everything worked out. What I say, I don't want to say too much.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want the judges to feel like I'm taking away from the music.
Right.
I don't know how they're going to think of our stage show. Should I tone it back?
Yeah.
Should I play more traditional? Should I do this?
Right.
Like all these things. And then when night 2, the second of the quarterfinals,
Right.
we just kind of let it go.
Yeah.
What I said is, we're just going to do our show.
Yeah.
And we're going to have fun. And everyone said that was probably the night that helped put us through to the semis. The
Nice.
fact is, everything felt so natural.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't want to think of it as a competition. I want to think of it as a festival.
Right.
Because
I
as
think
soon as you
that's
think of
very
it as a competition, the
Yeah.
nerves get
Yeah.
to you.
Yeah.
And I don't get stage fright.
Right.
Not anymore.
No.
You know, I'm one that I played in front of 12,000 people. I'm the same as if I'm in front of 3. I just
Right.
want to put on a show.
Very nice. So you didn't make it to the finals.
Right.
But but you did get you won the best self-produced CD honor.
We did.
Yeah. And what was the outcome for you and the band? Even though you didn't make the finals, what did you guys gain from this?
We gained so much. We got to meet so many new friends, and I call them family because when you keep in touch with these people, it's not like you're just, it's a fan. No, I don't.
Right.
I don't believe in that. All the fans are friends and
Yeah.
they're family.
Yeah.
We actually gained multiple festivals out of it. Just
Wow.
people that saw us play.
Right.
We had over 5 festivals book us.
Very nice.
A bunch of venues in Memphis that want to book us on our next tour there.
Excellent.
And on top of all that, one of the coolest things is I got to hang out with a lot of my friends, like out of Florida, like Anika
yeah.
Chambers
Yep.
and Paul. You know,
Yes.
we're good friends with them down in Florida, and it was
Sure.
kind of cool to just see people walking around
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and hang out with everybody.
Yeah. And we were down there too, my wife and I. And boy, I'll tell you, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Beale Street was just packed with people. I was like, are you kidding me?
I know,
Yeah.
it kind of shocked me
Yeah,
too. I was glad to see that people were coming back.
Yes, yeah. It was just the amount of cars and traffic and just noise was really something, yeah. And normally this competition's held in January, in February, when it's a lot fewer people because of the weather and all.
I
Yeah.
was happy for the weather side of things for May.
Yeah.
And I think more people came out because of that.
Yes, yes.
The only thing I was a little bummed on was we did have to move around some touring.
Yes.
Just
Okay.
because we were
Right.
preparing for January, but it's it's the little things.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's one of
Hey,
those,
you
it's
got-
necessary evil, there's no issue.
Yeah.
But I am happy that it happened when it did, because I felt like we had a lot more people.
Right.
Because
right.
the year I went in January, I mean, it was cold.
Oh yeah, I've been there. I know.
You
I
know.
Yeah. Who won that year? Do you remember?
That year, oh, I'm having a brain fire. It was a band out of California,
Okay.
and they were a 4-piece band, and the drummer was the singer.
Oh, was this the Delgado brothers?
Yes.
Maybe. Okay. Yeah.
And the duo, there was a duo that won
Yeah.
the solo duo.
Right. How does a band that sort of starts off in Maine, kind of a regional band, how did you grow to become much more of a national band? What were the steps that Memphis Lightning took or has taken on this rise?
Absolutely. The biggest thing for us was it was kind of a cold call effort. Just jump in
Okay.
and see what happens. Like, I got a bunch of contacts from friends of mine that were either have toured or were touring, and they said, hey, you guys need to be out there. And I go, well, I'd
Right.
love to, but I don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
And one of the big propellers was a good friend of mine, Paul Benjamin.
Oh yeah, we know.
And Paul booked us for he was our first major festival outside of New England.
Okay.
Who booked us for it was the Blues Bash at the Ranch.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And we did some touring before then, but when I say touring, it was make a bunch of cold calls,
Right.
oh, would you please have us? And they go, we don't know who you are. Well, pair us with a local opener,
Right.
and we'll come in, and we always would win the crowd over.
Right.
And then your second time
That's
in,
right.
you had a little more of a crowd. By the third time, we were selling out.
Yeah.
And that seems to be kind of our MO. Is our
Okay.
first time in,
Yeah.
unless it's a venue or a location where people know us, we do have a generally good,
Following.
good following.
Yeah.
But then
Right.
by the second and third show, we're selling out.
Yeah, yeah.
And then other things, like we just played New York not too long ago, and it was a sold-out Civic Center.
Yeah.
So it's one of those. But to get back to what I was saying was mainly the whole idea was it was a lot of cold calls.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of rejection.
Yeah.
And that's why I get very emotional in the sense of people that were there for me to begin with. I will always play for them. You know what
Right,
I mean? And
right.
we've done, they'll have to charge a higher ticket price or things like that. But people that were there in the beginning, it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
they hold that spot in
That's
your
right.
heart.
That's right. Because they're going to come out and support you, and they're going to bring their friends when they come out too.
Right.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
their friends will come
Right,
out. And
right.
it's just this never-ending process.
Yeah. Now I did read in your little bio in the IBC program, you're a cancer survivor.
I am 5 years.
Wow. How did the music help you survive cancer?
If it wasn't for the music, I wouldn't be here. And I know I've heard other people say that,
Yeah.
and I always thought it was corny, and then I realized, no, it's true.
Yeah.
Because when I got diagnosed, the first question I asked was, am I going to still be able to play guitar?
Okay.
And I remember my dad looking at me and all my family like, well, aren't you worried if you're gonna die?
Yeah.
And I said, well, no, if I can't play music, I'd rather be dead.
Right, right.
Then after I found out I could play music, then I said, okay, is it 6 months? Is it something I can get treatment for?
Yeah.
And it was a treatable, but it wasn't known as it wasn't a type of cancer that's normally cured by chemo. It's
Okay.
normally treated.
Okay.
And I was very rare. I was cured from it.
Wow.
Within 6 months.
Wow. So did you stop playing for those 6 months while you were going through treatment? Did you stop touring?
We actually worked it through the touring and the shows.
Okay.
But we did have to cancel, I think it was a total of 2 shows.
Oh, wow.
Because it was one of those where location-wise, there was no way I was going to get from, the oncology center there.
Yeah.
And the second time, I was just, after you go about 2 days after your treatment, you feel dead.
Yeah.
So I would try to never book a show on that day.
Okay.
And one day it was,
No
and
one-
I just couldn't do it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I know you've learned a lot from the music. What have you learned from the disease?
One big thing I really took away from that was up until that age, I kind of got around the age of 16, I started to get a little hot-headed.
Okay.
So I discovered what an ego is.
Yep.
I did. Yeah, my head kind
Yeah.
of it swelled up. I
Yeah.
won't lie.
Yeah.
And I also got into the whole I wanted to play faster than anybody.
Right.
And I forgot a lot of the roots. You know, like I remember listening to Eddie Kirkland and listening to the guys that The Reason I'm Here, and I was like, yeah, I can do that, you know.
Yeah,
and you play 100 miles an hour.
Sure.
And then it was a wake-up call. Because after going through that chemo, I realized how lucky and blessed I am to be in a band with my dad, to be here playing for people. The fact is that people want to hear me play music still astonishes me. And the ego left.
Yeah.
And so did the care of being the fastest guitarist. All I want to do is play for the song.
That's cool.
And there's songs that I don't even play a guitar solo on because the feeling is in the lyrics or it's in the groove of the song.
Yeah.
I don't have to always play a flashy lick to convey that to you. I just want to play what's going to serve the song.
That's great.
But I won't lie, it did take that to kind of snap me out of it.
Isn't that funny that the response that you get from an audience was better medicine than the medicine you were taking for the disease?
You got that right.
That, I mean, I know, because I've done some stuff in front of audiences, and I know what it feels like when they're hanging on your every word, you know? And I know that feeling is like, that's going to help me get through this. One last thing. You've played with a whole lot of legends, yes?
Absolutely.
The Buddy Guys
blessed
of the world, the Eddie Kirklands of the world, the Jimmy Vaughns of the world. What lessons do they teach that you carry with you today?
It's funny you say that. And with some artists, there were similar stories. And others that were, totally off the wall, stuff I never would have thought of that I've listened to every day.
Right.
Like I remember the biggest thing that I picked up, and Eddie pushed it, Buddy pushed it,
right,
and Little Freddie King pushed it. And I remember talking to them, and they all said the same thing. They said, "Always be you."
Right.
The world is always changing, but just be true to yourself, and it'll show in your music.
Right.
Don't be afraid to evolve, because if you listen to all their music, they did evolve.
That's right.
But they never changed what they started in.
That's very cool.
And that was kind of the big, one of the big lessons I took from those cats. That the fact is, they had been doing this so much longer than I've ever dreamed of.
Right.
And if they did it right, they have the knowledge, and I just want to be, I just want to be there and seep it all in.
That's very cool. Great. Well, thanks so much for your time today.
Oh,
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, we're here with Memphis Lightning. Oh, where does the name Memphis Lightning come from?
Oh, I got to tell you the quick story.
Yeah.
So, remember how I told you when I was 12 and I started in the band?
Yeah.
Well, technically, it was the same band.
Right.
And that was the lineup of the band for the first 10 years.
Okay.
Now, the name of that band was the Blue Jets. It didn't actually turn into Memphis Lightning until, I think it was 2015. And what happened was, it was when we did our first kind of regional tour.
Okay.
And then we said, okay, we're actually going to hit a new location. And then in 2016, I did the thing in Memphis.
Yeah.
And I remember we get an email saying that we're getting sued for the name The Blue Jets. It was a band out of Sweden that owned the name. And I'm like, okay, we got to change this fast. We got 30 days.
Yeah.
So my nickname was Little Blues Man initially, and then it got turned to Lightning because I had so much energy and running around.
Right.
And my dad told me, well, the music we do predominantly came out of Memphis.
That's right.
So Memphis Lightning was born.
Oh, that's perfect. Great. Good. Well, once again, ladies and gentlemen, here we are with Memphis Lightning. Memphis Tipadii.
Tipadii. You got it.
And enjoy the show. Make sure that you check that link out, okay?